your earliest cooking memories?
I mean, it's definitely at home. I grew up in a really traditional Greek family household. Both my parents immigrated from Greece, much older. So, I grew up only speaking Greek and really only knowing the Greek world. It was a very small community back in those days. I was cooking from very, very young. I remember being, I think, 7 and making breakfast in bed for my mother and father for their anniversary, and thinking about what I was going to make them, and, having my brothers and sisters all younger than me sort of participating one way or the other. Food has always been something that was central to our life growing up, but it was also extremely therapeutic for me. I always loved to cook. I always loved to, make food and give it to people.
And who did the cooking in your family?
Just like pretty much most immigrant households, the women did most of the cooking. My father and the men were really sort of delegated to the outside, so any whole roasting of animals or any barbecuing, grilling, or whatever. I was always, even from very young, always trying to make things a little bit different than my mother, So I would always take something that she did, and I would, I remember running home to watch Julia Child reruns when I was a kid, and she would do something, and I'd be like, Mom, let's try this, and she would give me a little bit. My mother was really good at, like, okay, I'm going to cook a meal for the family. Here's a little bit for you, If she was making cookies, if she was making preserves, we were always included in one way or another, and there was always like the kid pot and then the family pot. So there was always that, like, okay, is ours going to come out better than Mom? Most of my memories revolved around being with Dad, hunting and fishing. We did a lot of outdoor activities. He grew up in the mountains in Crete. And they did a lot of hunting and fishing and a lot of growing of vegetables. So we had a huge garden in our backyard. I grew up out on Long Island, so it was really nice. We had an acre of property, and a good amount of it was taken up by fresh vegetables from the garden. Every night we had dinner, and you just didn't miss it. That was an important meal every day. Roasting was always whole animals, and we would do probably about 30 to 40 animals a year. We'd have these huge parties where 200-300 people would come to our backyard, and sort of the Greeks would take over the little community that we lived in. They were like the foundation of it all, and they just used food as a vehicle to make sure that foundation stayed solid.
And how do you feel like that influences you today? Because a lot of people grow up, cooking in their home kitchens, but they're not spending that time necessarily hunting or fishing and then going home and cooking it. They either have the fishing piece or they have the cooking piece, but you saw both. So how do you think that influences you now?
Well, it was funny to me when farm to table became such a big movement here, because it was just how we cooked all the time. So when somebody said, this whole idea of farm to table, it's like a new movement, I was saying I didn't realize it ever left, and it was just something that we always did. There is something to be said, especially here. We're very far removed from the farm. So I think that when I remember when I was a little boy, my father went to New Jersey in our Ford LTD station wagon, and he brought back a goat and a lamb. And we let it loose in our backyard, and they were running around, and I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. And, I should have known better, but Easter Sunday came, and, he woke me up and shaking me up out of bed, and I walked outside. I'm on the animal, and I remember my father coming over my right shoulder and slitting its throat. And, I get up, and I'm crying, and he's looking at me, and he's like, "Are you crying?" And my first instinct was to just pull back, because he was just a very old-fashioned man. And he said, "Are you sad?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm sad." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Because you killed my friend." And he said, "Does it hurt?" And I said, "Yeah, it hurts a lot." And he goes, "I want you to remember that pain." So I asked him why. I said, why would you want to hurt me like that? He said, "Well, when we sit down to dinner and you tell Mommy that you don't like this or you don't want to eat that, remember that this thing lost its life for us to eat, and that you have to honor that thing. You have to honor that life." So, it was a tough lesson to learn at 7 years old, but I'm sure it was a lesson that he was handed down from his father. It sort of changes the way you perceive the reality of these things.
And so we're going to cook something based around a lot of the simplicity of the childhood cooking.
Right.
What are we making today?
So we're going to cook a dorade, which is similar to the porgies that I used to grow up catching a lot of by the buckets. You're going to see that bright acidity is really important to Greek food.
Wonderful. Well, will you show us the steps?
Yeah, it's super easy.
Great.
Right, so we're in the kitchen now finally, and we're going to start cooking the fish, right? So this here is a dorade. We've scaled everything, we've gutted everything. What we're gonna do is 2 simple incisions. I'm gonna start here at the tail and then run it all the way along the backbone. That would be one. And then the second one, same way, you're gonna start at the top of the head, run it all along the backbone. And what's really important here is this little incision right here at the tail. So what's gonna happen is, as we cook this fish on the grill, that little incision will help to push the flesh away from the backbone of the fish. It'll give us a really easy way of opening it up and plating it once it's all done. Super simple, salt, pepper, both sides and internally. Just a little oil. This is a canola grapeseed blend. Olive oil we're only using for finishing. We'll get to that for the simple salad. Okay, so this is going to take probably about 4 to 6 minutes on each side. Okay, so fish is ready. We want to let it rest. Okay, most people make this mistake. Fish, very similar to steak, needs to rest. All right, so we let the fish rest for about 7 minutes now. Looks pretty good. We have our lemons grilling, so it's ready to open up. To open the fish, it's fairly simple. The backbone now is going to just pull right out. Then you have the fin bones in the front here also, which will just pull right out. So here you can go in from this side here. It's pretty simple, where your cavity is, and it just opens right up. This comes right out. This now gets cut. I'm going to start off with just a fresh squeeze of some lemon juice on here. Next up, just a little bit of salt. Remember now, we only really season the outside, so the flesh part right now hasn't had any real seasoning. This is our Greek oregano, coarse black pepper. Okay, this here is, we take lemon zest and we just microplane it and dry it, and we mix it with some fresh herbs. We're using a combination of mint, dill, parsley, and chive. Just a sprinkle of that on top. A little bit of extra virgin olive oil. A little bit more lemon juice. And there it is. This is my childhood grilled fish memories. Hope you have the same at home. Enjoy.